Well, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that there are some people in the audience who haven't read our monitoring review. Even more shocked at the day's chair's lack of confidence in you all. But I take my instruction from him that he says that some of you haven't read it, so I will now say a few words about it. And actually in the context of my opening comments, because I said that why do I think this event has been so oversubscribed, I said it's because the topic is hot. I said it's because understanding the potential of administrative data is a multifaceted phenomenon and needs to be looked at in multiple ways. And I said because there is a desire amongst people in the statistical community to influence the authorities' thinking. I think today's presentations have amply demonstrated why the topic is hot. I think they've been fabulous presentations. They've completely demonstrated that this is a rich, multifaceted phenomenon that needs to be understood from multiple angles. Done that very, very well. And I think they've endorsed the positions that we've laid out in our draft monitoring review, but there are some things which I'm going to take away to develop our work. So our monitoring review starts with the proposition that there are lots of official statistics which are compiled on the basis of administrative data, and it's our job as the authority to assess which of those statistics meet the standards to be a national statistic, this gold standard. And it comes on the back of some high-profile cases where we've concluded that official statistics based on administrative data have not met those standards. David referred to police-recorded crime as being the most high-profile one of those, both in England and Wales, but also in Scotland, where we've looked at the crime statistic based on police data, and we've said there is insufficient assurance to meet the standards to be a national statistic in both England and Wales, and also in Scotland. That's our starting point. But we also realise that this is a very widespread, as I've said repeatedly, very widespread phenomenon, and not all administrative data sets have the characteristics of police-recorded crime. So what our monitoring review attempts to do is to lay out our framework for thinking about how we will form our judgments as assessors of statistics. And we do so through a risk-based approach, which says that data sets have different properties and different risk profiles, and then says that the practices that the statistical producer organisation needs to apply to those data sets should be moderated to the risk. Not all administrative data sets have the properties of the police recording of crime, which needs a very high degree of assurance for lots of very obvious operational reasons that I won't go into. Lots of them, I think, are within Neil McIver's circle of trust. In fact, we didn't actually use the term the circle of trust in our draft, but when we revised the work, I think that sort of concept of there being degrees of trust is extremely powerful. So that's one thing that we take away from today. We also propose, however, not simply our framework for making our judgments, but say that actually there needs amongst statisticians to be a recognition that this is an issue, that not simply to take at face value the numbers that are spat out of the management information that they're provided with. I think in the course of doing our work, we've been reassured that most statisticians do have a scepticism, and they are not taking at face value the data. Where I think we've exposed a room for improvement is there isn't a common language, a common framework, a common way of talking about this. So sometimes individual statisticians in an individual departmental context don't have a framework against which they can go to their management information providers and have the sort of conversations that Neil and others clearly are having. And what we are encouraging, so the second thing is not only how we make our judgments, but encouraging an empowerment of statisticians by creating a generally recognised framework for addressing the sort of N does not equal all type problems. And then the third thing that we're doing in our monitoring review, and I think this is the thing that I most want to strengthen when we finalise it in January, is to say, of course, building on that second point, statisticians exist within an organisational context. They are part of bigger organisations. And as part of those bigger organisations, they need to have a voice and to be recognised, and the policymakers, the operational managers, the frontline people within those organisations need to understand the value of statistical analysis, the value of the statisticians, and how what they do, the non-statisticians, is important in a statistical context. And I think that's probably a systemic weakness across the government system, that statisticians are often struggling to get in early enough in the design of administrative systems and processes to bring the undoubted expertise that statisticians have to bear to the table. So if I want to really emphasise one thing in our work, it's that institutional voice. We had a whole series of focus groups. One which stuck with me was in Belfast, where one of the statisticians said, what we need is sharper elbows. And I think that's absolutely right, and I want our work to emphasise that and to use the weight of the authority's voice to really drive that point home. So that's really what it says. But of course, you knew all that because you've all already read it. Thank you very much.